Welcome to Candid Conversations with the Self-Esteem Queen, where we have honest conversations that empower, educate, and encourage growth. I'm Feona Huff, your host, also known as the Self-Esteem Queen. Tonight, we're talking about something many people experience, but too many stay silent about: workplace bullying. From intimidation and gossip to exclusion, retaliation, and toxic leadership, workplace bullying affects mental health, confidence, careers, and overall well being. Joining me tonight is Dawn Stone, also known as the Conflict Chick. She's here to help us unpack the realities of workplace bullying, conflict resolution, and ways to protect ourselves professionally and emotionally. So let's bring on the Conflict Chick so we can get this conversation started. Hello, good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing today, sis?
I am, I'll say this because I believe in speaking life, even when things are challenging and life be lifing.
hmm
Um, I am blessed, highly favored, and empowered.
That's the right attitude. I agree. Happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me in the space today.
You know, we've been connecting. We've been connected for quite some, what, maybe a year or so now.
Yeah, I think it's actually been a little more than that, but hey, you know, I'm excited. It feels like a lifetime.
But so beautiful that our lovely listeners may not know is that we are sorors.
Yes, we are.
We are members of the illustrious Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Incorporated.
Yes, so it's just a beautiful thing, and we were destined to be because Deltas always find each other.
We do. We do. And it was a post for you and a post for me. And since then, we've been connected. And so it's great that you hold this space for sisters and others to learn how to navigate, their emotional, physical, social, and psychological self, because that's what you're doing.
See that, and I knew that. First of all, I've wanted to do this particular episode for a long time, dating back
Yes.
when I experienced workplace bullying for the first time ever, and I did not have any support, and I
hmm
felt alone. And yeah, I felt alone, and so I'm glad that you hold a space to be able to give wise counsel to support those who may be going through it right now, because workplace bullying, we know, is a very
hmm
real thing, and a lot of times people are intimidated to address it. They don't know where to go,
hmm
and I have learned in recent times that human resources is really not there to support the employee. Is really to protect the company.
hmm
So I was kind of floored when I came across that. So tell me, in your opinion,
hmm
because my experience was, but what is workplace bullying? What is it? What does it look like?
Okay, that's such a, first of all, workplace bullying disguises itself in many, many forms. So it is physical, that's physically touching, restraining, cornering, chastising people in a way that is uncomfortable for them. So you're violating psychological safety, meaning I should be able to show up as my whole self and do the work. Number two, workplace bullying is also it's emotional because it also can be electronic, it can be written, it can be face to face. And so that's where we hear things like gaslighting, where maybe two or more are, or one or more actually, are feeling that they are being combative towards someone, and when they say something or try to justify themselves or something else, then they say, oh, well, it can't really be like that, you can't feel this way. So there's a lot of what we call banter that occurs with that form of bullying. And then you also have the electronic version. So we have letters being written, we have workplace documents that can be anything from a report to a performance review. And that also is a form of workplace bullying, because I literally just got off the phone with a colleague who was sharing the narrative, because we both work in this space. And the person was telling me, you know what, I know exactly what this is and what it feels like. And so what was perfect performance and attendance and communication 3 months ago has now changed. So workplace bullying comes in many, many, many forms. And since we've had technology with instant messenger and things of that nature, there are people who will text you to death and really tell you should know this. It's things. Anything can be misconstrued and anything can be misinterpreted, because words are words. And what we know about words, self-esteem queen, they don't have emotion. And so you can say or do things even in all caps, or say nothing at all. And it's still a form of workplace bullying.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's deep. You know, also alienation
Mhm.
is a form of workplace bullying, and I shared this scenario, or this story, this real life experience, maybe about a year or so ago. I had done
Mhm.
a podcast dealing with the title was forgive them not, and I talked about my experience. So the long term sub who was in my pre K classroom, she
Mhm.
had on a vacation, and she told me specifically there was a particular student. He was very busy. Now, mind you, they're pre-K, but he was very busy, and his mother had no control over him. The father was in the military, so one minute, the child is stable. Then when the father goes away, he
Mhm.
acts out. So dealing with that, and she said, I've been trying to get rid of him. If he does anything, call his mom. And then she was gone for 3 days. The first or second day, I'm like, I can handle it. No worries, I'll handle it. But the third day, and this was close to the end of school, he took off his socks and shoes, and he hopped onto, they're like Velcro mats,
Mhm.
but they were stacked up. It was like stacked up four. So he was standing on that, bouncing up and down. And I was like, you have to get down. It's not safe. I need you to get down. And so I called his mother, and I explained very calmly, what was going on. I said, he's having some challenges, and I want to know, what would you like to do? So she says, I'm around the corner. I'll come get him. So fast forward the next day, the long term sub teacher, she comes in, and she's like, we need to have a discussion, because the mother was so upset, and she wants to speak with the AP. And I'm like, well, just what I said, just what I told her is what I said, and I'm explaining to you exactly what was said, And I didn't mention to her how you told me to try to get rid of him the first incident of him acting out. I didn't do that. But when it became a safety issue is when I called his mother.
Mhm.
And so she was upset, and it's almost like she was trying to throw me under the bus. But
Mhm.
I didn't do anything. I clearly, and the mother was already upset. First of all, the mother, she was talking about going to the school board since school began. I started at that particular school the middle of the school year. So the issues that was going on with this little boy had already pre-existed before my coming in.
Mhm.
And so I believe in standing my ground, standing for myself. I don't care who you are, where you are. You're not going to try to throw me under the bus when I know I did what I was supposed to do, and I speak very well. I communicate very well, but this was an issue that pre-existed before me. So automatically she shut down because what I told her was that I was not going to deal with this student and the issue again because you've already made it seem like I did something wrong when I didn't. So I wasn't saying I'm not going to, while the student is in my care, take care of him. I meant the behavior issue. I'm not going to deal with it because you already wanted to get rid of him. So you're not going to put that on me. I'm gonna let you handle that. Suddenly, she, like a light switch, she flipped on me. Now, mind you, we were Bonnie and Clyde in the beginning. She even bought five of my Powerhouse Pointer books. No, my self-esteem, my Mirror Mirror Standing Tall books for the affirmation books for Black girls. She bought them, took pictures. She always complimented me, but when I stood my ground, oh, she shut down. So the very next, no, immediately she started acting funny. The next day I came in, she went speak to me, and this went on for like 3 months. I spoke to the principal who was a member of the sorority, and she had vetted me. We spoke for like 2 hours, and I was like, first of all, she had never visited me since I started there. So I told her what was going on, and I asked to have a meeting. Meeting never happened. The alienation continued. I would be in the classroom. Another teacher or staff member would come into our classroom. She would tell them what was going on in our class, but wouldn't say anything to me. And then one time she was like, "Oh, Huff, did you hear that? Why am I hearing something secondhand when I'm in the classroom?" She was already a control freak because she was former military, former Navy herself. So she didn't let me do anything. I would come in later in the morning, and so the kids would jump off of the carpet. Miss Huff, how beautiful! She would be like, "Sit down. We're doing carpet. We know we're doing morning circle." So I dealt with that. And the first time ever in my life, I took a mental health day. I had never in my life done that. But that's what I experienced. And I didn't know who to turn to because if the leader of the school did not come and even investigate, then what was I to do? Because I already knew that principles are goals. So whatever the principal says goes, but she never did anything. And I suffered in silence until I couldn't take it no more. And I was out. So
Mm-hmm.
and I was new. So when you're a new kid on the block, to the schools, to that particular school or whatever, what do? You don't have. I didn't know who to turn to because I was completely new, and I've since forgiven that person in my heart, but I will never forget that experience. It was horrible. Never in my life did I uh, dread going to work with children, which is a part of my ministry and my calling, what I do. I mean, I didn't change how I, dealt with the students, but I felt the thickness of her animosity towards me to the very end. I even tried to, break the ice and say, listen, it's nothing against you, but I know what I said, and I did what I said, nothing. She just flipped on me, and she was nasty. She was very nasty, and I didn't have any help. So, for those who are dealing with, workplace bullying, what do they do?
Well, there's a lot you can do and I appreciate you sharing your lived experiences because so often so many people do not talk about this stuff. They do not express it. And I'm very open. So in the world that I live in as the Conflict Chick LLC, I've been in this space for 15 years and literally started writing it with my life back in 1991. And I do realize that some of our audience wasn't even born then, but I'm going to share what and how, right? What it is. We're going to go through the letters of the alphabet. We're talking about children. We're going to keep it real. We're going to keep it 100. So the A is your attitude and the actions. A lot of times when we are seeing these things play out in real life, our mind will do this great thing. It's designed, your brain is designed to protect. And so what it will do is just protect you. Oh, you didn't see that. Oh, you didn't feel that. Oh, they didn't mean that. So you begin to look at their actions as if they are one-offs. But what happens is you got to pay attention to the systems and the signs that you see, right? So if it's consistent, that's a 111. Once a day, they are saying something out of line, or at least once a week, or every time, or sometime, whatever that looks like. I'm going to tell you, take a notebook. I will say this. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to stand 10 toes down, full chest. Keep a drop file for yourself and for everyone that you work with, because what it is, it's a relationship builder, but it's also a timekeeper. It's an established record of what's going on. So even if you are not feeling the best, or your mind might be super hopeful, if you look at the trends, you'll be able to do something about it. So the A is the actions and the attitudes of the people, including yourself. You want to also do that self-assessment to make sure you are aware, right? Aware of you and how you are and what's going on. The B is your behavior and your beliefs. You got to look at the behaviors that you are seeing, not only displayed towards you, but also your behaviors as you walk into the space. What is the belief system? So all of us walk into these spaces, and when you're working with people, even people who you are aligned with by blood or by some type of relationship, there is a belief system that you have. So even in couple relationships, in those partnerships, there are different belief systems. So if you're not sure what people are about, let's have some courageous and candid conversations about things they enjoy, things they believe in, what keeps them up at night, what things do they wish they could change. Having those things will get you an idea of what their belief system is. And a lot of times that is their value system. So in that space, it would have been good to understand the value system of the person as well as the parents. Like when I work with people's children, I always know in my head, they're going to think their kid is the best, right? But
Right.
you know, there's another side to that child. And so the idea is to understand how they are raising that child and their perceived belief system as it relates to their child. So then C is the communication. We got to keep open lines of communication, finding out whether or not they are text people, whether they are face to face. Let's have a little tete a tete, or if they are people who want things in writing all the time. Figuring that out and setting up your systems for that. The D is decision making. Decisions cause us to be out of regulation. So we always talk about our systems or our nervous systems being in order, because when you were bullied in that moment, when you were gaslit by the parents, and then the administration comes in and says, "Oh, you should know better," that type of thing, you had no place to go, and it silences a lot of us who are being bullied. So the thing is, you want to make sure you understand your decision making as well as the decision making of the other people. So are they a shoot from the hip, gonna make things up, or they have their specials and they'll let certain people get away with things and other people not? You understand what I'm saying? Those different measuring sticks.